The top supply chain headlines and news stories of 2020. 2020 was one of the toughest years in over a decade for supply chain managers and business managers globally. While the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has been the main challenge, there have been other headlines and news stories throughout the year that have hugely affected the supply chain industry worldwide. Here are some of the largest supply chain news stories of 2020. USMCA. The passing of the USMCA agreement was a widely praised move to update much of the NAFTA language and let it evolve further to take into account various tech advancements. USMCA is generally seen as a positive step from NAFTA, strengthening the trade bond between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, and will no doubt result in more trade than ever before between member nations and also result in more nearshoring. COVID-19. The obvious headline from the year was the widespread coronavirus pandemic that has affected nearly every business in some way. With vendors, suppliers, the customer base, and overall demand, transportation, and logistics partners all being affected in various ways, supply chain planners have had a very tough time adapting as quickly as possible to the altered landscape. For many firms, this has meant working with suppliers to try to prevent inventory shortages and maintain at least some level of production. Also, firms have been under much pressure to make sure that their operations are continued while teams are working from home and that additional safety protocols are in place for employees that must work on the premise. Consumer demand and peak season. Following the spread of coronavirus, many retailers and transportation providers were simply not ready for the quick rebound in consumer demand that started in the summer of 2020. This put many firms in a rush to book ocean, air, and trucking capacity as rates rose rapidly past previous levels. Spot market rates in particular heavily increased and have remained highly elevated throughout the end of 2020. Most within the industry predict that rates will remain high at least until April of 2021, as demand for restocking inventory remains very high. California AB5 and Prop 22 law. California's AB5 regulation focused on making many independent contractors full-time employees. While aimed at the tech industry, current owner-operator trucking and drayage firms are thankfully exempt from the new law. However, there is a fear that future legislation could alter this, and there is also a current appeal in federal court that could possibly change the current exemption that truck drivers have thus far from the AB5. If CDL owner-operators were not exempt, California's supply chains would be disrupted with a lack of capacity and instant rise in trucking rates. For trucking companies, large and small, many already operate on thin margins. This would represent a major potential challenge. Specifically for owner-operators, many of whom only own one truck, they would be scrambling to find work, and many would simply leave the state. Maritime emission standards. Kicking off in January 2020, the global maritime shipping industry, which operates over 50,000 vessels globally, faced a more stringent emission requirement industry-wide. While a positive step for the environment, there were strong concerns that increased fuel and implementation costs would be passed across the industry to consumers. While no doubt this has caused industry concerns, the impact of COVID-19 with the initial drop in shipping demand, followed by an increase in demand, overshadowed the effects of any IMO 2020 standards. The global demand drop for fuel oil also helped to curb the expected rise in fuel prices. Looking forward, it is very likely that shipping prices will trend up into 2021 as global oil consumption perhaps rises, which would increase fuel prices to maritime shipping companies. Brexit. As of January 1st, 2021, the United Kingdom has officially left the European Union. The process took over 4 years, with the threat of a no-deal Brexit a major concern until literally hours before, when a trade agreement was signed on the 31st. While most economists and business leaders agree that Brexit will not be a positive move for the economy, the more immediate, clear issue for businesses is the increase in uncertainty that it has brought over the last several years. Many firms simply held off making major capital investments due to the potential for a no-deal Brexit that would heavily hurt their business. The last-minute deal included provisions to avoid added tariffs on many products moving between the EU and UK. For UK manufacturing firms, this is a huge relief as added tariffs could have become a major financial issue for them. Vaccine logistics. With the FDA emergency approval and rollout of vaccines, the focus quickly shifted to how these vaccines would be distributed around the world. Supply chain managers and firms quickly started to gear up to safely move the vaccine doses. The vaccines require freezing temperatures, which puts the bulk of the transportation volume on traditional cold chain providers, and while being augmented by other transportation and logistics firms. Passenger airlines, cargo airlines, and parcel carriers such as USPS, UPS, FedEx, and DHL are also playing a major part in the distribution of the COVID vaccines. More technology. 2020 saw the development and release of more technology products and solutions within the industry than any prior year. The rise in transportation costs, work-from-home environment, and general lack of trucking capacity in certain markets helped to push shippers to look at new capacity solutions. Visibility, shipment analytics, and online document management all favor digitally enabled products. The ease of shipping in this manner, especially in a work-from-home situation, makes adoption an easy choice, especially when shippers are looking for additional capacity. Stay tuned for more supply chain videos and a look at what supply chains will face in 2021. More videos are coming along very soon from Zmodal. Subscribe and like if you haven't already.